Welcome to the Madison Miller Podcast. This is the second of 32 episodes of the 2024 NFL Offseason preview and prediction series. And now up will be the Atlanta Falcons. Again, the drill for this show. We'll go over the free agents to be, team needs, franchise tag candidate, a trade candidate, a release candidate, an extension candidate for some teams, a draft fit, a free agent fit, and a bold prediction at the end of the show. And next up is the Atlanta Falcons. So interesting offseason. They bring in Raheem Morris to replace Arthur Smith as its new head coach. Raheem Morris was actually an intern coach with the Falcons a couple years ago after they got rid of Dan Quinn, ironically enough, who's now in Washington. Free agents to be on this team. Van Jefferson, Scotty Miller, two wide receivers. Keith Smith, their fullback. Calais Campbell and Bud Dupree, two pass rushers. They have a lot of needs, this team. Quarterback, wide receiver, guard, defensive end, outside linebacker, cornerback, and safety. All right, franchise tag candidate. I'm going to go with Calais Campbell. Calais Campbell is somebody that seems to have never aged. He is somebody I think the Falcons want to keep. He is somebody that has been in a lot of big games over the years. He is a guy that's just a winner, and the Falcons want to win, and they don't want to rely on a lot of rookies. So they're a win-now team. They're a team that has been trying to win its division the past couple years, but have failed to do so. They haven't made smart draft picks, but I think Calais Campbell is a good quarterback pass rusher. I should say pass rusher for quarterbacks to face. So, we're going to do a Calais Campbell for franchise tag. And he, if I'm not mistaken, had 7 sacks. Yeah, 7 sacks, 1 forced fumble, PFF grade of an 80. So he was a B in Pro Football Focus this year. So that is pretty good. And to me, he stands out the most of the franchise tag candidates on this team. Although Cordell Patterson is also a free agent, but that's easy to replace. Like, Cordell Patterson. Like, I'd rather have a veteran pass rusher that's been in big games locked up rather than a guy that Atlanta barely uses on offense. A trade candidate, Tyler Algier. The presence of Patterson is a reason why I think Algier is a trade candidate. And obviously they took Bijan Robinson with the first rounder last year. And he is someone I think the Falcons want to keep and build around with that offense. And Algier is someone I think could fetch back a good return. I think he can get them like a second or a third, like a day 2 draft pick. Like, he's that good. So I could totally see somebody giving them like a second or a third round pick for Tyler Algier. I mean, you ask me who's that team. I know a lot of teams have running backs. I mean, would New England do it? I mean, if the Giants lose Saquon Barkley to somebody, would they do it? I wouldn't do it if I'm the Giants, though. Washington, would they do it? Probably not. It has to be a team that's bad that might do it and want like a veteran running back in there. I mean, I know this is a weird one, but would Dallas do it and realize that Tony Pollard is more of a platoon back like he was with Zeke rather than a real RB1? It could be him and Algier. I mean, could Dallas in theory do that? The Eagles have a ton of running backs. I don't think they would do it. The Rams have Kyron Williams. The Cards have James Conner. So, yeah, I really can't pick out a team for Algier. I mean, the Dallas one does kind of make sense, ironically enough. And then Pollard could be back in that situation he was in with Zeke, except with the lesser player in terms of now versus them in Algier. So, yeah, I would say Tyler Algier is an interesting trade candidate. He might fetch Atlanta back something nice. A release candidate. I hinted at this in the Cardinals podcast. I'm going to say Jake Matthews. Another highly paid former first-round pick offensive tackle. He's somebody that, obviously first rounder out of A&M in 2014. He's 32 years old. He got a 3-year extension in March of 2022. So he's going to be a free agent in 2025. So, he is making $17.5 million a year, and I could see a world where he's cut because he really hasn't played well over the past couple of years. So, I could see a world where Jake Matthews is cut, and then they go to the draft to address offensive line or sign another free agent. Extension candidate. I did not have one for Arizona because obviously they traded their pick in 2021 for Hollywood Brown, like we talked about in the Cardinals podcast, and how that wasn't all that impressive. I mean, if Arizona did have one, maybe it'd be Rondell Moore. Actually, that was 2022's pick that they traded for Hollywood Brown, but in 2021, they really don't have anybody that stands out as an extension candidate. Maybe Zaven Collins, maybe Rondell Moore, but that's not definitive. But Atlanta has one, and that's Kyle Pitts. I would wait to sign Pitts until next offseason. And obviously, this draft class coming up has the fifth-year options that have to be picked up or declined. So, we'll see with Pitts, and he's the guy I have eyes on as a potential contract extension guy. And I could see Atlanta saying, hey, we're doubling down. He has a lot of potential. Here's a 4-year, $76 million extension. So I would just keep my eyes out for that one. And then people are going to lose their minds if Kyle Pitts gets extended. Draft fit. I think Michael Penix Jr. is an interesting draft fit for Atlanta if they wait and take him on day 2 of the draft. And then you could have him behind maybe a veteran, or maybe if they decide to keep Taylor Heineke around, and they can have him play behind Heineke or something like that, and then you got Penix playing the preseason a little bit. But then again, if they were to take Penix on day 2, it could be Desmond Ridder 2.0, but Penix has more upside than Ridder did. I know there's some people out there hating on Penix, and he says, oh, he looked like the guy from Indiana in the title game against a real defense in Michigan, yada yada. But I like Penix. I think he has potential, but I don't think that he's going to be the next Joe Burrow. So, I just think it's an interesting fit with all the pieces they have offensively, and they have a good offensive line too. And he's certainly an upgrade over Desmond Ridder and Taylor Heineke. So that's why I think Michael Penix is an interesting draft fit for the Atlanta Falcons. Free agent fit, Danielle Hunter. Again, a need for a defensive end. Maybe they don't keep Calais Campbell and they don't use the franchise tag on him. Or maybe they use the tag on Cordell Patterson instead, which would be stupid. But let's say if they decide not to go with Calais Campbell and franchise tag him. Or maybe Raheem Morris wants a 4-3 rather than a 3-4 defense. Or do you put Danielle Hunter at outside linebacker? That would be interesting too. You can put him at outside linebacker and keep your 3-4 defense, and you replace this Bud Dupree. He's an upgrade over Bud Dupree, and you could have both him and Calais Campbell together. Campbell is 37 years old, and Danielle Hunter is 29, so he's going to get a payday from somebody if the Vikings don't franchise tag him, which I don't think they will. So Danielle Hunter to Atlanta, I think, is a really interesting free agent call. And I think that it's not out of the question that they sign him. Bold offseason prediction. This team will sign a big-name veteran quarterback that will get cut from its current team. I am not saying who it is. It's a teaser for a couple more podcasts away. Think of a team that has a veteran quarterback that in the scenario where he played poorly at times with with the tenure at the team, and the big name coach seems to not be a fan of this particular quarterback. So I could see a world where this quarterback is released and Atlanta picks him up, and this quarterback would obviously be an upgrade over Desmond Ridder and Taylor Heineke. I'm not going to give it away, but I'll give it away on when that respective team's podcast comes up. So Atlanta's interesting, obviously. I do think Danielle Hunter is in play for them. I would take a look at Atlanta to win the NFC South next year because, let's face it, the Bucs were probably a fluke and took advantage of Atlanta and New Orleans. And they might lose Mike Evans and maybe they pay Baker Mayfield. We'll save that for the Bucs podcast. But, like, say they pay Baker and they let Mike Evans go, and all of a sudden that team's worse, and now it's Atlanta and New Orleans vying for that division. Carolina is Carolina. They're a mess. We're going to get to them in a couple of podcasts. Maybe we'll get them, if not later tonight, then tomorrow. But I think Atlanta has a real chance to win this division. They have to upgrade quarterback, and maybe they sign Danielle Hunter. And you have Danielle Hunter and Calais Campbell on your pass rush. Your secondary has to be better too. Maybe they draft somebody. Another possible draft fit for Atlanta might be Terrion Arnold of Alabama, the corner, or maybe they draft somebody with the pass rush like Jared Versey or Dallas Turner. So yeah, Atlanta I don't think is far away from division title next year. And Raheem Morris is probably going to be one of the favorites for Coach of the Year in 2024 season. So that is something to watch from like a futures standpoint too. So possible futures for the Falcons to win the NFC South: Raheem Palmer, Raheem Morris for Coach of the Year. Raheem Palmer's from The Ringer. I had his name in my head because he likes to do his betting stuff for The Ringer. That's why I had that name in my head. Raheem Morris, Coach of the Year, and Atlanta to win the NFC South next year. And I wouldn't be shocked if they're favorites in that division next year instead of Tampa or the Saints. So that's something to watch as well. So there you have it for the Falcons. Next up is the Baltimore Ravens, who have an interesting offseason ahead.